All right, looks like we're ready to rock and roll here. Excuse me, this is Cody Cochran with MBSI WAV. Thank you everybody for jumping on here today. Certainly looking forward to a great session. So MBSI WAV, we're really excited to be teaming up with Cambium one more time for 2020. Today's session, we're going to be covering updates on the 450 platform, including both some hardware and software. Again, MBSI WAV, we're your go-to stop for everything Cambium and of course 450 related. Just some housekeeping notes here before we kick this thing off. The webinar is going to be recorded and uploaded to all of our social media outlets shortly after we're all done. Feel free to check out our YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook pages, etc., to find the webinar post shortly after we wrap up here today. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop them in the chat window as we move along. We will be addressing these questions at the tail end of the webinar, so don't be concerned if we don't address it right after you do chime in. If we do run out of time, which I don't foresee we will, we will personally reach out and address any questions that might be outstanding. If that chat window does not automatically open, there is an icon at the bottom of the window to open it up. Please pay attention during the webinar. We will be asking a skill testing question at the end of the session that is covered in the material. The first person to answer correctly gets a $100 Amazon gift card. To be eligible for the giveaway, you do have to be a resident of Canada. So again, just wrapping up our intro. So here at MBSI WAV, we're really excited to have these updates shared with you all today. There's some really nice improvements that are coming on the already robust 450 platform. Again, just a reminder, MBSI WAV, we can help with planning, network design, post and pre-sale support on every piece of a wireless network. And of course, that does include the 450. So with that all being said, presenting today on behalf of Cambium Networks is Mr. Matt Mangriotis. I'm sure a lot of the attendees do know Matt. He's very active with the customers, and he does make it up here to the Great White North when things are a little more normal, which hopefully we will see in 2021. Matt is one of the directors of product management over at Cambium. And with that, Matt, I'm going to kick it over to you, bud.
Thanks very much, Cody. Good to, hopefully you guys can see me anyway. Good to talk to everybody up there. And hopefully, like Cody says, I'll get a chance to come up again sometime in the near future. Without further ado, I think most of you are familiar with Cambium Networks as a company. But just in case you need a little refresher or haven't heard from us in a while, we are the industry leader in all things wireless. Pioneers in fixed wireless. We've been doing this for 20 years now. Just about 20 years we've had a product in the field. Next year will be the 20-year mark. We're embarking on new technologies, new things across the whole portfolio, including the advancement of Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi 6 standards. We launched the 60 gig product, which I'm sure a lot of folks are very excited about. That thing is awesome, and we're super excited to get that out the door and get that rolling in production. Partnering with both Facebook, Qualcomm, some of the major names, and we're going down the path of, at some point, embracing the standards. You know, a lot of times we talk about the proprietary nature of the 450 platform, and that provides us with the ability to do some really great things. And we've done that, and we've optimized, evolved, and done really cool things with the proprietary nature of the system. And we're going to continue to do that. And I'll share with you kind of our vision of where we're headed. But we're also, at the same time, embracing standards where it makes sense, like Wi-Fi 6, like 5G. Very cool stuff. So we're headquartered outside of Chicago. I'm, homebound, of course, but still in the area. And we're all kinds of happy right now with how things are going. Business is booming. We're on track to have a great year despite all the limitations and things that are going on with COVID and the pandemic. There's a lot of need for wireless systems right now. And as you probably know, that we have a really broad portfolio of products, all the way from the microwave, long distance microwave, high capacity links that go kind of mountaintop to mountaintop, very high tower to tower, and very long distances. Dropping down into kind of the broadband access layer type of deployments where we do multi-point scenarios through all kinds of applications, residential, enterprise, industrial, including things like video surveillance. With the CN Vision portfolio, in fact, we have some specialized products that do video surveillance now. And then with 60 gig, now we can provide super high capacity at, albeit short range, but really super high capacity, and really great product there that we're excited about as well. So all kinds of different parts of wireless, but Cambium can cover it all with whatever the need is. So for focusing a little bit more on 450, as you probably know, this product has evolved over many years. It was launched first in 2012, and it's an evolution of the original canopy design, which goes way back. But we can now provide over a gigabit of data at a sector level. That is a pretty important number to consider. This is done using multi-user MIMO, which is what the CN Medusa product does. So again, this is probably a lot of background information that many of you have heard before, but I do want to kind of level set the table here and kind of make sure you understand that this is an evolving platform that continues to evolve over time. We're constantly making improvements in software, adding features to the feature set so that you can do more things with the product, and continuing to bring even existing products forward as we move forward in time. So as we add to the portfolio, we're not leaving anything on the cutting room floor or things that need to be upgraded and replaced. We're just evolving those products. And we're able to do that because of the proprietary nature of it. I just want to give an example. I like to show this because it really shows, it's a testament to how well the network works at scale. Netflix often has what they call a Netflix speed index for a given provider. And they do it in every country around the globe. Italy has a kind of a unique infrastructure, if you will. It's a lot of mountainous areas, and the cities are historical, so there's a lot less opportunity to put fiber in the ground in a lot of places over there. So wireless is hugely important. And what you see here is kind of a Netflix report from 2017 showing that there's a company called Eolo. They're number 6 down there in the chart. The first kind of wireless company to break into this chart. And throughout the last few years, they've deployed lots and lots of Medusa. This is our biggest single 450 network in the world. Still is, still reigning supreme today. In January, they were number 1, which they had been for about 7 months in a row there throughout 2019. Netflix stopped doing this, by the way. So they stopped measuring these when COVID hit. There is a February report which shows Vodafone taking over again. However, it's really a testament to the fact that the only wireless company that's near the top there is this company that's using vast majority of Cambium equipment. And it's, again, the single largest 450 network in the world. They have probably about 500,000 radios deployed. It's a pretty amazing story. And really, during COVID and during this pandemic, they've seen their network traffic spike by nearly 60% in some areas. And the network is resilient. It handles it, and which is a really, really important point as well. So what have we done? What are we doing? Everyone loves the plan of intent slide that we show. This is kind of the most recent updates. This is what we're planning to do with the portfolio. So in October, we launched a product called the Retro, which I'll talk about in more detail. And here in last week, we launched release 20, and then we quickly pulled it off the website. We had an issue that was uncovered by the first few customers where it would require some machinations on the SM side to recover a couple of radios, and we don't like that. We don't want to cause truck rolls. So we pulled that off really quickly. We're going to launch it again next week with that issue corrected. So we're calling that 20.0.1. And hopefully that comes out before the end of next week. It's in test now. We have the fix for the issue that was uncovered. You can read about that on the forums if you need to dive into more detail. But that software release 20, brings quite a few new software features to the table. We've now fully support IPv6 with all the various DNS, DHCP, and the management interface. We already had the management interface there, but now we can do all the other things associated with it to fully support IPv6. We also have upgraded most of the protocols that go along the secure protocols. We support actually TLS 1.3 in addition to SSH and SCP file transfer. So that's another good improvement in the protocols. We added what we call intermediate modulation modes, and I'm going to cover that in some detail as well, because that's a really neat performance boost for no cost, basically. And in addition to that, on 450i and 450b platforms, we've improved PPS by more than double. It's actually looking like it'll level out at around 150K PPS, but it's greater than 100K for sure. In February, and that should say 2021, I just noticed that. February 2021, we are going to have the connectorized version of the 450B come out as well. That'll allow you to, on the SM side, put a very large antenna if you need to, given you're within the rules and such. But we also have a connectorized micropop. So we launched a micropop prior to the retro. I'll talk about those new products in a little more detail because they're pretty exciting additions to broaden this portfolio. And then we have another major software release kind of in the middle of the year, towards the end of Q2 there, where we'll add a couple of more exciting features. Something we call nomadic mode, which will allow an SM to stay connected while it's moving. It can rearrange very quickly, so it won't drop session and reestablish as it's moving, but moving at a slow rate. So we're not calling it mobility. It's not transferring between sectors, but it'll allow certain applications to work in a better way. We get a lot of requests for this for agricultural applications and some other mining, that sort of thing. So that'll be pretty neat addition and new use cases for us. We'll also support 40 megahertz frames in a better way, 40 megahertz channels with 5 millisecond frames rather, bumping up kind of the top headline throughput that you can expect from the Medusas. Adding multiple groupings per frame, again, enhancing and optimizing the performance of the AP. There's a CBRS feature that's coming, and we can spend some time in the questions if people have questions about CBRS. I didn't include a lot of slides because it's not directly applicable to the Canadian market at this time. But certainly if you guys want to talk about that, I'm happy to answer questions. It's a huge part of our existing business in the US, and it's a hugely growing part of the business. And I expect we'll see some similar things get implemented in other bands and other regions, including Canada. So I'm expecting to see some kind of frequency coordination, dynamic spectrum sharing get implemented at some point in some of the bands, even in Canada. And then we have a few things, a few other features that are coming. Late in 2021, we're expecting to add a couple of cool features. One is called split sector mode on the Medusa, which is allowing some of the resources to operate in one frequency and some in another. On the 3 gigahertz platform, we're expecting to do carrier aggregation between those two, which would be cool, which would require also a new SM. Looking forward, these are in yellow, which means they're still being decided, still being figured out. But, and we can again spend some more time on this, and I think it's worth spending a little more time on this. 6 gigahertz is coming. And it appears, based on the last reading I did with the proposal and the publication from ISCD, that you guys are going to have roughly the same rules in Canada that the FCC has proposed for the US, which is great news, because that opens up a whole new swath of spectrum that can be taken advantage of. And what we're looking at doing is really next gen. It's the next gen version of 450. That it says 6 gigahertz, but the intent from us is for that radio that we're launching in 2022 to cover 5 and 6 gigahertz in a single device, which really means we're moving this platform forward, and we're super excited about this. So 2022 looks like a new 5 and 6 gigahertz radio, 2x2 MIMO. And then in 2023, we'll add Medusa to the mix, a next-gen Medusa to the mix, capable of larger channels, higher order mu MIMO, And obviously that all means higher throughput, higher capacity. So we're super excited, and this is the vision that we have for the platform. We are going to continue to propagate and move this thing forward as we go forward in time. So let's spend a few minutes talking about kind of the most recent hardware releases, and then a couple of the software features that we've launched. So 3 gig Medusa, I think there's been a lot of talk about 3 gig. And so I'll address some of the questions that I know are coming. So the consultation that was released about, I don't know, 2-3 months ago, it says, hey, you're using 365 today. We're going to kick you out of 365 in 5 years and move you to 3.9 to 3.98. So everyone that's using Cambium says, whoa, wait a minute, what do we do? And unfortunately, I don't have an answer for you today. I am hard at work. We got a team working on characterizing exactly what happens to the hardware when you operate in those frequencies. Today, we don't support that. We support, it's the support, operating support, if you will, stops at 3.900. Now, we are going to evaluate what the current set of equipment does, meaning 450M and 450B mainly. What do they do from 3.900 to 3.98? I don't know yet. I do know there is some performance degradation because there's filters on either side of this that prevent operation outside of the intended band. But I don't know how bad it is, and I don't know what that means to actual functional system capabilities. So we are investigating, and we should have an answer to that within about a month and a half, hopefully about 6 weeks. So that work is ongoing. So rest assured that's happening. At the same time, we're working towards a potential, depending on what the answer comes back as to what the operation looks like, we're looking at, well, what can we do with existing hardware to augment or fix or shore up the performance. And so all those things are being worked on. So rest assured, we're not forgetting about you. This actually has impact in other areas of the world as well. There's opportunity to utilize some of that spectrum in the same location. Actually, specifically 3.7 to 3.98 in the US is going up for auction in December. And we believe that some of our customers will have the ability to operate there. And so again, this is all leading towards the fact that we are going to do our best to support those frequencies with this equipment. Now, whether it's as is or it needs a change, I don't have the answer yet. So hopefully that preempts or answers a couple of questions ahead of time, and we'll touch on this again at the end in case more questions come up. But in any case, 3 gig 450M, bringing Medusa to 3 gigahertz. I know some of you guys have that already, and it's really working well. The EIRP limits in this band are much higher in the US under the CBRS rules, and we can meet those using the equipment as is. So maybe when this move, or if this move takes place, then those limits will be increased as well for Canada. Going along with that, we released the 450B high gain in 3 gigahertz as well. Again, this has a little bit higher transmit power. It's got some features that we've made to the 450B high gain in 5 gigahertz, like we move the LEDs so it's easier to see them. They're actually underneath and inside the door. But all good stuff. We've got great feedback on all these equipment. I know right now at the moment it's very hard to get this equipment, but we're doing our best to catch up to the demand. There's a huge demand, especially in the United States, for this equipment because of the CBRS capabilities. I do want to point out that CN Heat, if you've not heard of that, that's our planning tool. And network planning tool, meaning we go down to the 1 meter resolution LiDAR data where it exists, and we'll tell you exactly where on the roof you'll have coverage based on kind of a heat mapping type of thing. We've extended the capabilities of this product to now incorporate near and non-line of sight connectivity especially for 3 gigahertz. And that's because a lot of times folks use 5 gigahertz where it's available. But then if you can't make that line of sight shot with the 5 gigahertz, you turn toward another frequency to try and make the shot. And 3 gigahertz is often the next one that you look at. And so in this case, this is just an example with a couple pictures, but at 13 feet above the ground, you can't really get a line of sight coverage. There's no signal being shown as being present. As soon as you enable near and non-line of sight, okay, we have some trees blocking the way. We still believe we can get the signal strength of minus 70 using this product to its best capability. So it's kind of a neat tool, and now we can support this near line of sight type of coverage. We're having great results with folks that are using this to plan their networks. One of the more recent products that was just launched as well, and this is again back to the 5 gigahertz band, is the MicroPop. We launched a MicroPop Omni and a MicroPop Sector. The main difference between this and the full-blown APs is that this supports 20 subscribers, 20 connections, and it goes out to a 2-mile range. Anything beyond that requires a key to unlock it, which effectively will unlock those limitations. The Omni is a 9 dB gain omnidirectional antenna with a great antenna pattern. And the Sector is a 13 dBi gain. It's a much smaller package. It's only about this big. I don't know if you can see my hands there. It's only about this big, but that provides you 13 dBi, and it can go longer than 2 miles. We have customers that are doing that, but it is locked to 2 miles when you buy it. It has a GPS internal to the radio. It works very well. It's a new generation of GPS device that has great sensitivity. And it uses the standard 802.3 AT PoE. So it's a good little compact device. You can do MicroPop type of scenario, enhancing coverage all over the place. We have a lot of these guys doing this in both remote locations as well as kind of city-based or suburban locations. So on the left, you see one kind of on a pole outside of town, but it's pointing into a little town there, and that's working very well for and again, for under $1,000. You can kind of read the quotes there yourself, but it's a great little addition to the platform to help you fill in the network where you might need network fill-in and can't make the economics work for a full-blown access point. Retro. Let me spend a minute talking about what this is. So 450B, the platform kind of multiplied over the last few months, and we launched kind of a revamp of the original form factor, and we're calling that the 450B Retro. It looks very much similar to the original, a little bit updated design, of course. But what the key with this guy is that you can actually swap out the old 450 radios without realignment, meaning if you're using an offset reflector dish, and any reflector dish made in 2011 or later, meaning the ones with the single arm, if you have one that has a loop holder, then it won't work with this. This guy's a little bit different shape. But anything manufactured after 2011, and certainly all of the KP Performance manufactured dishes, the offset reflector dishes, will work with this guy. And you can swap those out. They have the same antenna focal point, so it does not require any realignment. It uses the same power scheme, so it doesn't require you entering even the customer home. What this allows you to do, the good thing for this guy is that it works very much the same, but it has enhanced packet processing power, meaning you'll never be limited by PPS. Now you can push 200 megs through this guy rather than being limited to about the 55 or 60 meg throughput that PPS limitation would really cause. Further, you can use other bands. You can, not only does this operate in 5.8, but it also operates in 5.1 or 5.4 for that matter. So you can use the other bands that are available in 5 gigahertz as well. And it's got some other things like the aux port, or the timing default port is gone, but now has the audio jack directly. So you can alignment, if you do need to align, you can align using just a pair of headphones. A couple other features like that. So this is a great device that's new and starting to ship. It should be shipping. We should be fulfilling existing orders by the end of the year here, and it'll be kind of on a regular shipments as we go forward. And then the 450B connectorized. As I mentioned, this is coming in Q1, hopefully in February. This is basically the 450B, just enhancing the portfolio. If you need a specialized antenna, it does fit the RF Elements twist port adapter. So you can add the horns, the dishes. It will come in both a subscriber module and a micro pop, two different pieces of two different SKUs. And the big difference between those two is the power input and the price, of course. So the micro pop will be 48 volt power, PoE 8023 AT, whereas the SM will be powered by the canopy style 30 volt power supply. And so that's the big difference, but otherwise it looks very similar. And it's actually, the mechanics have changed a little bit. It looks a little bit different than what it's shown in the picture, but I'll get that out and post it on the website before too long. And we're excited about this for kind of niche applications, but it's filling out the portfolio, making it a complete 450 platform portfolio. So I talked a little bit about the software, and I covered a lot of this already, so I'm not going to rehash everything, but we did, like I said, get PPS improved on 450i and 450b, and we got this intermediate modulation modes. And I got actually a couple slides to give you a couple examples of how that could improve things for you. Again, at no cost, all you're doing is upgrading software, and boom, now you got some enhanced capacity to deal with or to utilize. And then we got the stuff coming in the Q2 R21 timeframe. So intermediate modulation modes, what does that really mean? So we've added now 3, 5, and 7x, basically. 16 QAM, 32 QAM, 128 QAM. There's a couple of new modulations in between. And what this does is kind of level out that waterfall curve. So if you have specifically radios that are kind of on the edge, where you might be at 6x, but you're dropped to 4x when it's, you're kind of on the edge of that range. And now you can sit in 5x and actually improve your throughput for those guys. And so in these examples, I did kind of some modeling with assuming uniform distribution of subscribers. If I limit my range to 6 miles, and this is with a 5 gig radio, I see about a 13% performance difference, a 13% boost in performance in capacity using IMM, because some of my subscribers are now operating in 5x, whereas before they were operating in 4x. And some in the high end are now able to operate in 7x versus 6x. So I'm able to operate in 128 QAM modulation modes, just giving them an extra boost, getting them on and off the network more quickly. And a really cool one is if you have a sector that has really long range. Now those may be more impactful in some scenarios, because now I can do 3x instead of 2x, and it's really much more beneficial from a percentage standpoint, of course, to go with that. So in this really long range guy, we can see things like at 12 miles you see 20% improvement, and at 14 miles you see 30% improvement. So again, just a software upgrade. You don't have to change anything from your layout. You don't have to change anything. The radios will accommodate this. So intermediate modulation modes can give you up to 30% performance boost for basically nothing. Pretty neat stuff. So future's looking good. I know there's some major concerns about the 3 gig stuff. I want to reiterate that we are working to characterize the current equipment, and then the next step it would be to do we make any changes on software? Do we make any changes on hardware that can help operate through 3.98 gigahertz? We do not want to abandon this band. We do not want to abandon ongoing customer engagements, whether it's in 365 or 398. So this is all things that we're doing. We did review, and I was working with the folks at CanWisp to kind of make sure that the comments were captured in the response to the consultation. We did not file our own comments, but we are keeping very close tabs on everything that's going on with ISED and all of the things that happen in Canada. So rest assured, we are keeping an eye on that. And so we have some things in the works on 3 gig. 6 gig, again, super exciting. we're super excited to participate. We're seeing more countries and we're seeing more regulatory bodies talk about when this will get released and how. And so we are dedicated to providing products. We will not only have a 450 platform product in 6 gigahertz, we will also have an ePMP product. Wi-Fi 6 as a standard, Wi-Fi 6E is an extension of that, or extended frequency support, and that covers 6 gigahertz. So there will be what we're calling an ePMP 4000 that will cover this band as well. But we're also doing a 450 platform extension to cover 6 gigahertz. And that's, again, next generation, super exciting stuff. That is the future of the 450 platform. So that's pretty much all the slides I was going to cover. I do see that there's several questions that have come in. I don't know if you want me to just kind of go through and read this. I'm happy to do so. Or you want to help
you, Matt,
moderate, Cody?
Yeah, I can. Yeah, I got them noted here, so I'll pitch you the questions.
Sounds good.
Okay, and yeah, if there's any more while we're going through these, please do pop them in that chat window. All right, so first is just about software stability. Will there be a stronger emphasis on software stability with the problems that happen with R20, with the R20 rollout, which you had mentioned? Sounds like this customer specifically has been seeing some ongoing firmware issues since R16. Not 100% sure exactly what, but not sure if you want to comment on that, Matt.
Sure. We do our best always to try and make sure that we release quality software. As we add new features, things may or may not happen where we have run into issues. We do beta testing, and we do beta testing for a long time. Actually, R20 has been in the works for quite some time. And this particular issue was not seen by anybody until people started using it. And then we realized that the issue that was being seen, this is what's called PLL lock. It can cause a scenario, and it happened to one customer. But when we realized what it was, we pulled it because we don't want this to be an ongoing problem. And it requires a kind of a truck roll to unpower and power back up the SM to get it back, because it's a rolling reboot type of scenario. Again, very rare that kind of thing happens. And we do our best to do quality assurance on all releases. And we do try to improve that every release. So yes, I agree. We had an issue with R20. We pulled it back, hopefully before a lot of folks got it deployed. And those that have it deployed, if they're not seeing the issue, they're fine. It's really an issue that does not kind of latently poke its head out. So in any case, stronger emphasis. Yes, we're going to continue to work on improving software quality as we go forward. And we always try to do our best to do all of the system integration testing prior to launch, as well as much beta testing with actual customers and actual fielded units as we can, because that really helps to debug some of these things.
Thank you. And we also just want to note if folks are seeing, obviously any issues, whether it's software, firmware related, do make sure you open a ticket, support ticket with Cambium if you haven't already. So I just wanted to make sure that I just popped in that tidbit there.
Good point.
Okay, so CA capability. Does that require new SMs across the entire AP or the network?
So yes, it would require new SMs for those SMs that you want to do carrier aggregation. Yes, we are working towards something on the 3 gigahertz radio that would support carrier aggregation, and something meaning a new piece of hardware. So yeah, it does require new hardware.
Okay. All right. So 450i versus 450b. So aside from some of the obvious things that are listed on the spec sheets, like the size, the shape, antenna gain, etc., is there any other differences that you want to specifically point out, Matt?
Well, the I and the B use the same generation, if you will, of SoC, of the FPGA device. And that's why they're very closely related. From a hardware standpoint, the physical differences are the differences. From a operational standpoint, there's no difference. So that's kind of you've got it right. 450i and 450b, it's only the antennas and the physical changes.
Perfect. There's a couple here that I can field, Matt, before I get back to you. We did have a question about if CN Heat is free. It is not free. It is a kind of a subscription-based service. So if you do want some pricing on it, want some budgetary quotes, please reach out to either your sales rep here at MBSI WAV or sales@mbsiwave.com. We'll be happy to get you some budgetary numbers on that. We also had another question with regards to the LiDAR data that is required for CN Heat, if it's available in Canada. So it's not readily available. The LiDAR data out and available is pretty spotty. However, at MBSI WAV here, we have been making some contacts and some connections to be able to get LiDAR data actually purchasing it. So if you are interested in a specific area where you would want to use CN Heat and you're not sure about the LiDAR data, reach out to us and we'll certainly do everything we can to get you squared away and help you with that process. Okay, Matt, this is going to be back to you. We had just a request here. If you could give any further clarification on the nomadic mode, maybe the capabilities, some of the restrictions that you might see that's coming down the road.
I don't have any specifics at this point, but it's, I guess I could say it's, as I mentioned, slower moving, meaning probably there'll be a limit of, I don't know what the speed will be, 20 kilometers an hour, something slower moving than a car. That will stay connected. If you're moving faster than that, then you'll run into issues with, Doppler effect and things that'll cause the radio to not work well. So I can't really give too much else. Again, not mobility, not transferring between sectors, but nomadic, meaning moving within the sector. That's what we're intending there. Or rapid put up and take down. Rapid re-registration is what we call it internally. So not a whole lot of details beyond that at this point.
Okay, thank you. All right, the intermediate modulation mode, does it support the 450M?
Not yet, but we're working on that. So that's happening on the Medusa, the characterization and what that, it's, as you can imagine, it's much more complex to do that on the Medusa because you're operating under different conditions with multi-user MIMO. So it's a large undertaking, but the characterization is going on. I don't have that slated in a specific release, but hopefully we can get that into R21. That's the goal there. Okay,
perfect. Is there any plans to release a 3 gigahertz connectorized SM, assuming on the 450B platform?
Yeah, so I would love to do a couple of things with the 3 gig platform. Unfortunately, I think I'm a little bit restricted as to how much R&D I have to work with. And with all the things that are happening, I'm not sure we're going to be able to get to that. What I really want, and you guys can help direct if you have comments on this, feel free to type them in the chat. I really want an alternative to the high gain 450B, something else, whether it's a retro 450B in 3 gig, or whether it's connectorized, as you mentioned here. I guess I'd like to understand that. So if you feel free to email me and we can discuss this further if you want. But I want some alternative to a 450B high gain SM as an option because right now that's really all we have. The old 3 gig 450 SMs are gone. We no longer support those. We no longer have any of those and can't build them anymore. So the only SM that's current with 450 in 3 gigahertz is the 450B high gain. So yeah, I would like to offer another alternative SM, but I don't have anything in the works just yet.
Okay. What about on the 450i and 900 megahertz? Any plans for enhancements there, or anything you want to comment on with the new firmware starting to roll out?
All the firmware support is in all the variants, meaning the 900 megahertz gets all this stuff too. There's no hardware changes planned for 900. frankly, to be honest, the market size for that is not big enough to, and this is the same story with 2.4 gigahertz. And I'm sure you guys in Canada have heard this many times. The market size isn't big enough for us to spend enough to invest in new hardware. But the great thing is that all of the software improvements we do on the 450 platform apply to all of the hardware that's in that 450 platform. So it's great, great stuff.
Perfect. What frequencies will the 450 micropop be released for?
So at this point, we only have micropop in the 5 gigahertz. We have a strong pull from the market to do a 3 gigahertz version as well. But again, I'm a little bit restricted on how much R&D spend I have and how much we can do. We can't do everything. And so that's on the plate, but it's not necessarily kicked off yet. So I don't have any dates whether we know how to do it. We just don't have the resources to do it at this point. So I don't have anything other than the 5 gigahertz micropop is not on the horizon at this point.
Okay. All right. Will the 450 country codes in 365 be updated to reflect the different regulatory limits between urban and rural in Canada?
So it's not a separate region or country code that will limit that. I believe we allow the rural limits, which are higher, and then it's up to the operator to impose the urban limits where it's deployed in an urban scenario. If I'm wrong about that, please let me know. But I believe that's how we did it, so that you can set the rural power limits to the higher limits where it's applicable. But it's up to the operator. It's on the operator to limit it where they can't, where legally by the regulation. And if we have an error there, I'm happy to get it fixed in the next software release. So let me know if you guys don't agree with that setting, because I believe that is how we approached it.
All right, perfect. Just want to get some, we're asking for some comments on if there's been a lot of activity happening just in Canada in general around 5.1. The comments here are, the power budget seems not to be great and the regulations are a little confusing. Anything to add to that, Matt?
No, I mean, 5.1 was opened a couple of years ago as a licensed band in Canada. And my understanding is that you can obtain a nationwide license to use it, and it's not hard and it's not expensive. And the limits, the power limits are, I believe, similar to what they are in the other 5 gigahertz bands. So if you can obtain that license, then you can go ahead and use it. I don't know of anything else happening on that front. And I agree, it's a little bit obscure because now a lot of folks...
It is. It really is, yes. Okay, we got a question here. This one I'm pretty sure I can field, but I'll just see if you have any comments, Matt. Is it possible to get a webinar or training on the V20 DHCP stream priority settings, or is this going to be covered in any of the documentation that's released?
So yeah, it'll be in the documentation for sure. But so let me comment on that. That's a feature I didn't talk about. Frankly, because it was added somewhat late in the game. But this feature was specific to Zoom, actually. Zoom approached us, and because of all of the things that we're doing, like what we're doing at the moment, right now, we wanted a way to help prioritize Zoom protocols throughout our network without relying on equipment behind it. And so this particular feature we wrote and put it into the software, and it works fantastic. To specifically, you can select Zoom traffic, and it will mark and prioritize that traffic. It's still using similar, QoS priorities, DSCP. It's actually DSCP or 802.1p. It's still using those priority points, the code points. But it does this traffic prioritization on both ends. It makes sure that it's not missing any of the traffic stream. It really works great. And we were lucky to kind of get this partnership going. So it was specifically requested by Zoom, but it does apply to many other things. So we will have that in the documentation, and it's a great suggestion to have kind of a 10-minute training course on this particular feature. I think that would be great. So thank you for that feedback. I'll take that back to the team.
Perfect. So does the intermediate modulation mode work on the older 450 models as well?
It's on 450i and 450b hardware. I do not believe that the old 450s do that. Certainly not the APs. But that's a good question. I'm not sure if the 450 SMs will do those intermediate modulation modes. I will check on that and get back to you. I can do that while we're talking here, perhaps. But go ahead.
Yeah, you can chime in while we do our question, if that works. I did get another question. We got another question here. Where does the tagging take place? Is it at the SM?
Yes. So it's on ingress and egress of the packets. So it does take place on the SM side. Typically, that's where all the tagging takes place in the 450 system, because the access point is really a bridge that goes to the network, if you will. The ingress and egress point of the traffic is that SM. So that's where all the tagging in QoS normally takes place.
All right, and this one is actually from our very own Nicole Devereaux, our marketing champion over here. Once the updates on the frequency changes in the 3 gig on the existing equipment are available, Matt, would you be able to share some of that data with us that we could share to our attendees in that 6 to 8 week time frame that you were spitballing?
The question is, where will I share that?
Well, yeah, where will you share it, or can you relay it to us, and could we share it with our attendees here today?
Absolutely.
You have it?
I will certainly put it on our forum. That's the first place it's going to go. But I can certainly send it to you guys at MBSI, and we can send it to all the attendees. No problem.
Okay.
Yeah,
excellent. So yeah, everybody look out for that.
Probably the most important thing that's happening in the near future for this. I know a lot of folks are reluctant to kind of keep expanding their 3 gig network, because what do you do with it in 3 or 4 years, right? And if it doesn't work in the upper band, then that's a huge problem. So I'm all about getting that characterization done.
Okay. Oh, we got a comment here. It says, FYI, I'm seeing 5 and 7 times on 450 SMs with V20.
I got confirmation of that as well. So yes, it does work on the original 450 hardware as well.
Perfect. Okay, I think we got them all. That was awesome. That's a good amount of questions. Again, if anybody has any last minute ones, feel free to plug them in there. Oh, here's actually, this is an interesting take. Really glad this actually came up. Are you worried about competing with Starlink internet service for the ISP industry in general?
So that's a tough one, because I would say I am not worried personally. And that is because at this point, we believe that the cost to manufacture those, what do they call them, space, UFOs, the receivers, the subscriber modules, if you will, is probably very, very high. We've taken one apart. It's a lot of stuff in there. They're charging $500 for those right now. That cost, the cost to the customer will probably go down. The cost of the service is somewhat high, although not crazy, and that'll come down. The system capacity looks okay today. The constellation is not complete, so things will get better. So I guess what I'm saying is, it is certainly something to watch. Will it replace WISPs in 3 to 5 years? I don't think so. Will it impact your business in some areas where it costs a lot of money to get bandwidth to a certain very remote point? Maybe. So I would watch it. I would keep an eye on how things are going with it. but I don't see it as the doomsday sky is falling kind of thing. I'd say it's another competitor that we need to keep an eye on as an industry, and understand kind of the future of things. And who knows, maybe there'll be some integration down the road with satellite systems, because if it works the way that they envision it working, it will be a pretty great alternative to wireless in some cases.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Matt. I think that's it for now. So what we will do, we'll do our skill testing question here for our gift card. So I'm going to give everybody just a few seconds. If you haven't opened up that chat window, please do, and get your rapid fire fingers ready. It is first answer is our lucky winner. So I'll just give everybody a couple of seconds for that. Okay. What PMP software release adds additional modulation levels which can increase total sector capacity by as much as 30%, also known as intermediate modulation modes? And we're just waiting to confirm our winner. All right, Stephen D., you are our winner today. So thank you for everybody for chiming in there. Stephen, Nicole will be in contact with you shortly to get you squared away with your gift card there. Just want to make sure we didn't have anything else come in on the chats here before we close to wrapping up. I don't think so. Okay, I think that's it. So thank you all for attending. We really appreciate your time as always. We really appreciate the questions, the comments, the feedback. Matt, really appreciate you taking the time. Nice to see you virtually. I know we like to share a couple of wobbly pops together, and you fit in here in Canada quite well. You like hockey and beer, so that's it's pretty much you're halfway there. But again, yeah, thanks, Matt. Thank you to all our attendees. Any questions, comments, if you need any further information on anything we discussed today, you can feel free. If you have Matt's contact information, he's always happy to help field questions, comments, or reach out to your sales rep here at MBSI WAV. We're always happy to help if you need any information on the 450 product line. So again, thank you all so much for joining us today. We will be doing more webinars as always. This is it for 2020. So look to us to be in touch early 2021 with some more sessions. And with that, I bid thee a pleasant adieu. So thank you all for joining. Thanks, Matt.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, all.